What's up, guys? My name is Zack, and today I am driving a 2025 Mazda CX-70 plug-in hybrid Premium Plus. Up front is a 2.5-liter inline-4 as well as a plug-in hybrid system, and down below is an 8-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Mazda CX-70 because it is an all-new vehicle from Mazda. Well, somewhat. It's a new name for Mazda, and I'm always excited to share new products with you, especially Mazdas, since I'm such a big fan of the brand. I've owned 5 Mazdas myself, and so I'm excited to dig into this new vehicle with you here today. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. But let's get back to that 2.5-liter inline-4 as well as plug-in hybrid system. Well, there are 2 drivetrains offered in the CX-70. Of course, this plug-in hybrid with the 4-cylinder, or you can get a 6-cylinder turbo pulled from the CX-90. Now, I didn't love the plug-in hybrid setup in the CX-90, but because the CX-70 is a little bit lighter, it actually does drive a little bit better, and I don't mind the plug-in hybrid as much. Of course, you can drive it in electric mode as well for a couple of miles. And I think it makes a lot more sense in this 2-row vehicle more than it did in the 3-row vehicle, so I like to see that. Like I said, paired to it is an 8-speed automatic transmission, of course also shared with the CX-90, and these are the only 2 Mazdas that come with the 8-speed in their current lineup. Now, I'm sure that'll change down the road, but the CX-90 and CX-70 are still the only 2 to receive the 8-speed, and I like it. I think it shifts well, and I have 0 complaints. Last but not least, the CX-70 is all-wheel drive, as most Mazdas are. So how does it feel to drive the CX-70? Well, Mazda has always had an emphasis on driving feel throughout all of their products, no matter if that's the Mazda 3 or even the outdated Mazda 5 minivan, which was a blast to drive as well. The CX-70 is no different. It handles and drives really well. It has very firm steering, and you do get a lot of road feel through the suspension and steering. However, that's how I particularly like it. Now, that does mean it's less of a luxurious experience than what Mazda might be leading you on to think, but I highly recommend taking it out on a road test of your own. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me is a completely digital gauge cluster, and I really like it. I think it's relatively pretty, it's easy to read, and there is a customizable gauge down to the bottom right where you can cycle through a bunch of items. On the steering wheel, on the left, we have our volume, skip track, and our information button, which will switch that little gauge we just talked about. And off to the right, we have our adaptive cruise control options along with our steering assist. Off to the left, we do have our climate control vent, our warning on and off, parking sensors on and off, traction control on and off, gas cap release, and our memory seat options down below, along with the tailgate release. Moving on to the door, you do get this really nice sort of checker pattern. Now, running my hand over it, you can't feel any ridges or texture, but I think it adds a nice look and breaks up the interior a little bit. Lock and unlock, power mirrors, and power windows. Moving into the center, we do have the infotainment system. Of course, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are wireless standard, and it does have Mazda's standard infotainment system. Again, nothing changed between the CX-90 and the CX-70. And I do have a 360 camera that is standard here on the Premium Plus. Down below, we have our hazard switch and this really nice red piece of leather. Really like the look of that. And then we have our climate controls. I'm a big fan of how these climate controls are laid out. I think they're relatively simple. However, I don't like the temperature buttons. I wish it was up for hot, down for cold, but it's 2 separate buttons that are both down. That's okay, I just feel like they could have cleaned it up a little bit. However, what I'm not complaining about is the fact that it has heated seats, ventilated seats, and a heated steering wheel, which I'm pleasantly enjoying the cooled seats here on this warm day up at Road America. Then we do have a 12-volt outlet and wireless charger, and moving off to the left on the center console, we do have the drive modes, one of which the EV mode is specific to, of course, the plug-in hybrid. You don't get that on other vehicles. And down below, you will see that battery mode. Then we have the shifter. Now, it took me a while to get used to the shifter, even after having the CX-90 for a week. I never really grew to love it. I also don't love it here in the CX-70, but I've read the comments, I've heard your complaints. Those that own the CX-90 say it's an absolute breeze, so I'll take your word for it. I'm sure I'd warm up to it eventually. Off to the right, we do have cup holders, and so we'll do a big freaking bottle test. However, because they are shared with the CX-90, the fail is also shared. Down below that, we have our power parking brake and auto holding brake and our selector for the infotainment system. I've always been a big fan of this, great tactile feedback. And off to the right, we have our volume and favorite button, and the volume button also doubles as the skip track button, which is very nice to see. Then we do have our clamshell opening center console with 2 USB-Cs found in there. And then we'll talk about the seats. The seats are finished in a really nice red, as is the rest of the interior. And of course, these shots here, you're seeing the CX-70. However, I do want to show you the CX-90s that I've driven with this awesome brown interior and then this really awesome light interior as well. So from Mazda, there's plenty of different options. I've always found these seats comfortable. However, taller people above 6'1", 6'2" seem to have a little bit of spatial issues with them, so definitely go to your local dealer and try it for yourself if you are over 6 foot. However, we do have one extra row of seating, which is a big talking point with the CX-70, so let's go do a backseat review. All right, so we're in the back of the all-new Mazda CX-70, and I am very comfortable. My knees are not hitting the seat in front of me, my head is not hitting the ceiling, and that couldn't really be said about the CX-90 because they had to equate for that third row. This is plenty spacious, and so I think this is a really, really good size. If you're not happy with the CX-5 backseat or the CX-50 backseat, which I haven't been at times, I can manage those. This is way, way better if you are looking for that bigger 2-row. This is it. Down below, I do get 2 climate control vents, 2 USB-C ports, and my own climate controls that also include heated seats. So really nice to see all that. And we have this nice sunshade. We get the same sort of pattern on the door that we got on the front, and the red seats, of course, carry on. Center console folds down, 2 cup holders. That's pretty much it. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the cargo space now that it's missing a third row, and then we'll talk about the looks. So come around back here, little button right there, and it is a power operated tailgate, of course. Once we are back here, as you can see, wow, that looks like there's space for a third row. Yeah, we do have a wall outlet over here as well as a 12-volt outlet. And over here, because this is the plug-in hybrid, we get the second wall outlet. The inline 6-cylinder doesn't get this second outlet. And we do have power folding seats. Bada bing, bada boom. My stuff is there so it won't fold flat, but you get the point. Very, very cool to see that in the back of the CX-70. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I actually really like the look of the Mazda CX-70. Now, for the CX-70, they did change the front bumper and rear bumper a little bit, but honestly, if you put them side by side, it's gonna be very hard to tell the CX-90 apart from the CX-70, which we'll get into in a second. However, I do like Mazda's Kodo design. I think it all works decently well together. And while I don't think the CX-70 is a showstopper, I also don't think it's the ugly duckling, so it's somewhere in the middle. But with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the all-new Mazda CX-70? Well, I use all-new rather lightly. Here's what I honestly truly believe. I like this car a lot. I've always loved Mazda's interior design. I've always loved how they drive. I think the plug-in hybrid is more economical and would work better for short distance drivers. I think it looks handsome enough. I like the wheels. I like the rhodium white. Red interiors will always have my heart. And the rear seat space is good. As an automobile, I really truly enjoy the CX-70, and I think it's a good choice for a 2-row SUV if you want that little extra space over the CX-5 or the CX-50. However, the downside of this car has all been in the marketing. The Mazda CX-70 is just a 2-row version of the CX-90. That's it. And the fact that they changed so little else, I think sort of feels like they're duping their audience. They're saying, hey, this car is all new, it's brand new, it's unlike anything you've ever seen before, except it is a literal carbon copy of the product that's been out for over a year. The absolute worst thing an automaker can do is not build an unreliable car, is not build a super expensive or super cheap car. It's make their buyers feel dumb. And that's kind of how this car makes me feel, because for the nearly exact same price, I could have a third row. There's very little to no difference. Why did it require a name change? And why did Mazda hype up the fact that they were going to offer a new two-row SUV? Why didn't they give us the CX-60 that's available in China? So even though I like this car a lot, I think it's wonderful, I think it drives nice, this is a good car. It just feels like Mazda tried to pull a fast one, or they were a little lazy. And when they wanted a two-row vehicle, they just said, hey, just take out the third row in the CX-90 and we can all go home before lunch. So the product is great. The execution and communication, not so much. If you can get past that, I think you'll have yourself a wonderful vehicle. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to, of course, Mazda and the Midwestern Automotive Media Association. I am driving the CX-70 up at the Mama Spring Rally 2024. So huge thank you to both of those parties. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.